Hi, Ben. I think that's Ben at VI. Well, it's 7 o'clock now, so we'll start. My name's Aleta. Ben's just saying if I could turn another light on. I actually can't, Ben. I think it's the computer, not the lights. Actually, there is one more. Hang on. One sec. Saying my battery is low. Just 1 second. Okay, it's been a really, really hectic day for me. I don't know about other people, but the world is a little bit changed and taking a bit of adjusting to at the moment. Are other people finding that? So this is Buddhism for Beginners, session 4, which is the final session of Buddhism for Beginners. And then next week I start another 5-week course. So it's a different presentation of an introduction to Buddhist philosophy and principles. Is anyone else there? If you can introduce yourself, that would be great. So I know I'm talking to people. I know there's one person there, which is wonderful. My name's Aleta, if you didn't hear that before. And technology is just proving a little bit difficult for me, but all my Buddhist practices help me to meet those challenges, which is wonderful. So this is an introductory course for complete beginners, just providing a general overview of basic Buddhist philosophy and principles. So we normally start with a meditation, what I like to call an arrival meditation, to help us to just transition from what may have been a busy, stress-filled day. Mine certainly was. And meditation can help us to arrive at the present moment where we are right now and just give our body and our mind an opportunity to settle a bit, if it will. So wherever you are, if you're sitting in a chair, if you just have your back, your spine as straight as you can comfortably manage is really good. And if you're lying down, that's great as well, because you can really allow your body to relax and just melt into the floor, which is my favourite meditation position. Eyes can be closed, which helps to not be distracted by what's around you, the sights around you, or you can have your eyes just slightly open and the head just slightly tilted so that your eyes are pointed to a spot on the floor about 1 metre in front of you. So just taking a couple of deep breaths all the way into the belly if you can. And then just letting the breath flow into its natural rhythm. And just feeling the points of contact of our body with the floor or the chair holding us. Feeling the solidity and the security of that surface holding us. Having a sense of being held, being safe. And just for a moment, thinking of our motivation for being here tonight, to hear a bit about the teachings of the Buddha. And just seeing if we can develop a positive motivation for our efforts of being here tonight. And you may wish to perhaps become a more calm, kind, wise, happy person. And then we can spread that motivation out, wishing that by us working on our own mind to become more kind, more wise, that may help all the people around us as well. And then that could spread out even further to help the whole world, all the sentient beings in the world, to be more calm, more happy, more peaceful, more kind, particularly in these challenging times that we're facing at the moment. And now we see if we can just put aside anything that's been weighing on our mind lately during the day, putting aside any fears of the future, any worries about what happened in the past, putting aside any to-do list, Putting aside any thoughts that have been going around and around in our head, maybe. And we can always pick up these things at the end of the meditation or the end of this session if we wish. But just for now, we'll see if we can be a person in this moment with no history and no future. And just noticing how the body is in this moment. Noticing any areas of tension or tightness or discomfort or pain. And just imagine that you could breathe into those areas of tension or discomfort. As you breathe into that area, imagine the breath suffusing the area with your loving concern for yourself. And as you imagine breathing out from that area, imagine letting go of that tightness or discomfort. Just letting go with each out-breath. And if you can't let go of all the discomfort, maybe you can just let go of part of it with the out-breath. Or even just imagine what it would feel like if you could let go of that tension or discomfort. And now we just turn our attention to the breath, wherever we notice it the most in this moment. It might be at the nostrils or on the upper lip. It might be the rise and fall of the chest or the rise and fall of the belly. Wherever you notice the breath the most in this moment, just gently place your attention there. And just observe each in and each out breath. Not trying to control the breath in any way, just allowing it to be. And you might notice that there's a natural relaxation that occurs with each out breath. The muscles of the chest and the diaphragm relax, allowing the breath to flow out. We can use each out breath to relax deeper into the meditation. Letting go of any tension, any discomfort, any distracting thoughts, sensations, any disturbing emotions. We can just let go with each out breath. When the mind wanders, don't worry about it. That's just what minds do. And just gently bring our attention back to the breath whenever we notice that the mind has wandered. Placing our attention on the breath brings us to the present moment. Just this moment, just this breath. If the mind wanders 100 times, that's fine. We can just bring our attention back to the breath 100 times. And we can dedicate our efforts of meditation and of being here tonight to help us to work on our mind, to become maybe a better version of ourselves, more kind, compassionate, wiser person. And then may we be able to help all those people that we come in contact with. Help them to be happier as well. And just noticing the state of the body in this moment. Without judgment, just noticing how it is. Noticing the state of the mind in this moment. There's no right or wrong. It's just your experience. Becoming aware of the places of contact of our body with that safe, secure surface holding it. Noticing the touch of our clothes on our skin. Noticing the air on our skin. Noticing the noises inside the room. And the noises outside the room. And when you're ready, feeling joyful and relaxed, gently open your eyes and have a stretch. So last week we talked about the Lamrim, which is a presentation of the Buddha's teachings arranged in a graduated way, like going from kindergarten to primary school to high school to university level. Each teaching in the Lamrim moves on from the teaching before, so it's like a stepped approach. And we were working our way through a short Lamrim prayer called The Foundation of All Good Qualities, which was composed by Lama Tsongkhapa, a Tibetan scholar and master in the 14th century. And we had a link to The Foundation of All Good Qualities last week. I don't know whether Ben can put that up again or not. I should have asked before this, but my day has been so hectic and my week has been so hectic, and I'm not making excuses, but maybe I am. So last week we got up to verse 3. And we're just looking at each of these verses in this prayer and then just doing a very brief commentary on that verse, what it means for us, seeing whether it rings true with us, whether it resonates with us. So we read the verse, we reflect upon it, examine it, and then we see if we can put anything that we've learnt from these verses into our daily life to help us with difficulties and challenges in our daily life, to help us to train the mind. Lama Yeshe said, prayer and aspiration are not enough. Intellectual blah blah understanding is not enough. For deep transformation of the mind, reasoning is necessary. Transformation comes from studying Lamrim, thinking about the topics, doing analytical meditation on them, and practicing what we learn in our daily life. And with a firm grounding in Lamrim, we're able to work with the mind, no matter what's going on in our mind or around us, which has been truly helpful to me in my life. So verse 3, and Ben has managed to put the link there to the Foundation of All Good Qualities if you want to click on that so that you can read along, or you might want to look at it later. Verse 3, this life is as impermanent as a water bubble. Remember how quickly it decays and death comes. After death, just like a shadow follows the body, the results of black and white karma follow. So impermanence and death is one of the main teachings of the Buddha. It's said that 3 points should be reflected upon to realise impermanence. 1, understand that death is certain. 2, the time of death is uncertain. And 3, only Dharma can help us at the time of death. Dharma is translated in different ways, but I like the translation that it is anything that leads to long-term happiness or contentment, and ultimately to our enlightenment or perfecting our mind. So understand that death is certain. I think we all know that intellectually, but we don't necessarily live our lives remembering that when someone dies, particularly a friend, a loved one, we're often very shocked. And really, if we were remembering that death is the one thing we can be certain of in life, then we wouldn't be shocked when people die. So 2, the time of death is uncertain. We could die today, we could die tomorrow, we could maybe have a long, healthy, happy life, but we don't know. So that's why it's important to make the most of our life, to make life meaningful in every moment, knowing that death could be upon us at any time. The vast majority of people who die don't realise when they wake up in that morning on the day of their death, they don't realise that today is going to be the day that I die. So it's very helpful to reflect upon that, to make our life more meaningful, more precious, to extract the most that we can out of our life, do what we feel is right in our heart, and maybe working on our mind, working on our compassion, whatever's important to us, we should be doing that, remembering that death is uncertain, the time of death is uncertain. And then the 3rd point, only Dharma can help us at the time of death. So when we're at that moment where we're actually dying, our friends can't help us, family can't help us, our wealth can't help us. The only thing that can help us is the Dharma practice that we've put in, training our mind. At the time of death, karma determines our next rebirth. The state of mind at death is the strongest factor of the type of rebirth that we attain. So if we have a negative, agitated mind at the time of death, maybe we have great fear or attachment to our friends and family and possessions in this life. Maybe we have some anger at the time of the death. If we have any of these agitated, negative states of mind at the time of death, we will attain a lower rebirth, according to the Buddhist teachings. So if we can train our mind now to be positive, to remember love and compassion at every moment, if we make that our goal, then we're prepared to die at any time and to attain a good rebirth. If during life we withhold from committing negative actions, then at the time of death, it's easy to face our death. We have a mind which is not filled with regret. We feel that we've done the best we can, maybe. We're not perfect, we make mistakes, but we keep trying to be the best version we can be of ourselves, a kinder, more compassionate person. So this all helps us at the time of death. Every action of our body, speech and mind that we create lays down subtle imprints, karmic imprints in the mind, which has the potential to ripen as future happiness or suffering, depending on whether it was a positive or a negative action. And these karmic imprints remain in our mind until they ripen as a future consequence, or until they're purified or cleansed by spiritual practices. So this process is known as the law of karma. The law of karma is a natural law, like the law of nature. It's not some form of punishment and reward system, which a lot of people tend to think that it is. It's just a natural law that if we do a positive action is where we have the intention to help people, we will get the result at some time in the future. The consequence of that positive action will be that we have positive result coming to us. And it's not going to be instantaneous, unfortunately. If we instantly got the karma from each of our actions, life would be a lot easier, I think. If we get angry at someone and then straight away we bash our knee into the coffee table or something, we have an instant sort of a result, then we would learn, we would understand not to commit negative actions, not to have the intention of harming others. But karma, the consequence of our action, can be a long time in the future. It can even be in future lives. So karma doesn't actually make a lot of sense unless you accept that there are future lives and past lives. The Buddha said that we have been cycling through what they call samsara, which is just suffering state of mind. We have birth, old age, sickness, death. We've been repeating this cycle since beginningless time. And it will go on for endless time. I've just got a text from Ben. His internet connection is terrible, so it's dropped out. I hope that that's not coming from my internet connection here. But I can only do the best that I can do. And really it's all up to my karma and everyone else's karma as well. So we all have individual karma, but there's also group karma. And I think we can see that at the moment right across the world. We have all had karmic connections in past lives, if you accept rebirth. And the result of that at this moment is that we are all affected by this COVID-19 coronavirus. And it just highlights how much we are all interconnected, interdependent upon each other. And I really hope that a lot of positive lessons are learnt from the suffering and the challenges that we're facing at the moment with this virus. And I hope we can make the world a better place from that. And then we'll get the results of that, those good actions in the future for everyone as well. The law of karma. So if we practice in this life to be the best person we can be, then we're going to have a more calm, settled state of mind at death. And we will move on to our next life with a more calm and settled mind and have a better rebirth. So just moving on to verse 4 now. Finding firm and definite conviction in this, please bless me always to be careful, to abandon even the slightest negativities and accomplish all virtuous deeds. So we have to, well, we don't have to, you're the boss of your own mind. And Buddhism doesn't have rules that you must do this and you must do that. It's all up to us. We are the boss of our own mind. Buddhism is simply descriptive, saying that if you do negative actions with the intention of harming people, you will suffer. If you do positive actions, trying to help people, you will have positive results. You will be a happier person, have better conditions in life. So with respect to karma, there are 10 non-virtuous actions, the Buddha said, of killing, stealing, sexual misconduct, lying, harsh speech, divisive speech, gossip, covetousness, ill will, and wrong view. And if we want to be happy, we should abandon these 10 non-virtues and practice the 10 virtuous actions, which are basically like the opposites of those 10 non-virtuous actions, like a counter opponent sort of an action. So I think it's very interesting that out of those 10 non-virtuous actions, 3 are related to actions of the body: killing, stealing, sexual misconduct. They're all actions of the body. 4 are related to actions of speech. So we have lying, harsh speech, divisive speech, gossip. And then there are 3 actions of mind, which are covetousness, ill will, and wrong view. So there are more non-virtues relating to speech than there are relating to body or mind. And when you think about it, we are speaking constantly almost throughout the day. Most of us who come looking to better our mind, looking for spiritual teachings of any sort, are probably not likely to be people who are killing other people or stealing in major ways, or, you know, doing those major sort of negative actions of the body. But we talk so frequently that we have to be really mindful of how we talk. A lot of us have had habits all our life of maybe gossiping or talking about someone behind their back in a negative way, or using harsh speech when you're angry at someone and you yell at them and you say things that really shouldn't be said. These are just habits that we've developed over our life. And if we want to become that better version of ourselves, the best version we can be, then we really have to watch our speech. Be mindful. What am I saying now? Is it something which is to help people, or is it something which is really meant to harm people with the intention of harming? So I think that's a really good practice, to just try to be as mindful as you can of your speech. Maybe for one whole day you can wake up in the morning and have a goal of trying to be mindful of how you're talking right throughout the day. And just notice how you could speak in a more positive way. Sometimes it's really hard when you're in a group of people that are talking about someone in a negative way. It's hard not to join in. You have to be really mindful and to really put in some concentrated effort to not join in with that negative sort of talk, because that's just a habit that we've been practicing for all our life, maybe. So mindfulness and meditation helps us with that, to see where we could do better, where we could speak in a kinder way. So the Buddha said, if you want to be happy, abandon those non-virtuous actions and practice the 10 virtuous actions, which are like their opposites. So I just noticed a question there. Aleta, is it about our motivation when it comes to speech or the content itself? As in, if we say negative words about someone, does it matter what our intention is? Karma is all, it's a very good question. Karma is all about intention. Sometimes we might say something which hurts someone, but we really have the intention of helping them, of being kind. We're not going to get negative karma if we unintentionally hurt someone with our speech. It's all about what our intention is, which I think makes sense. Just rereading the question. So is it the content itself which causes the karma? I would say no, but maybe sometimes we're just not mindful of what we're saying. So if we be mindful, we can develop a more positive intention, maybe, and not say things which accidentally hurt other people because we just weren't mindful how that maybe that would be offensive to that person. So mindfulness works alongside the intention. I think we can always be mindful of, am I following a positive intention, or what is my intention at the moment? Mindfulness is helpful in all the Buddha's teachings. Another comment there, it can be hard to be mindful when it comes to something so automatic like speech. I totally agree. Totally agree. Because we've done so much talking over our life. But it's like anything, learning to ride a bike, going to the gym to develop your muscles. The more you do the practice, the better you get at it. So we just keep practicing, and having a regular meditation routine really helps with that as well. Even if you're just meditating for 5 minutes a day, if you can't afford more than 5 minutes, 5 minutes a day is still going to help a lot, I believe, to help you to be mindful through the day, and then to be able to transform the mind. It's not a quick fix. There's no pill out there that we can take and all of a sudden be kind, loving, happy people. But it's just a practice. So these 10 virtuous actions, if we just think about those non-virtuous actions one at a time, instead of killing the virtuous action, to the opposite of that would be that we value and cherish life. Instead of stealing, we could give freely of what we have to help others. Instead of taking others' partners in sexual misconduct, we should respect our partner's feelings. We should respect everyone's feelings when it comes to sexual conduct. Instead of lying, we should speak the truth. Instead of causing disharmony by slandering others, we could speak about their good qualities. Instead of speaking harshly, our words could be soft, gentle, loving, encouraging. Instead of gossiping, we could talk of people's good qualities. Talk of all the positive things they've done, all the efforts they put into worthy pursuits. And we can replace covetousness with rejoicing at others' good fortunes. So instead of when our friend wins lotto and we think that we actually deserve it or need it more than them, so we've got a bit of jealousy, a bit of covetousness there, we could just practice rejoicing that they have this good fortune. We can replace ill will with feelings of love and compassion. And we can replace incorrect beliefs, or wrong view, in other words, with more realistic attitudes. And we'll talk a bit more about that later. But it's interesting to see that the negative actions, if we can just turn them around and do the opposite, then it's easy to see how we'd be virtuous in a way. But we still have to practice a lot. I don't know whether I mentioned last week, I think I might have. I thought that at one stage years ago that I had really kicked being jealous, and sort of feeling a bit proud of myself that I never get jealous anymore. And then it just started happening that I noticed I was jealous of when friends and family and other people were getting good things, and my life seemed tough and difficult at the time, and I was noticing jealousy arise. And I wondered why, when I hadn't been so jealous for so long, for years. And then I realised it was just that I was really not being mindful, and I didn't realise before that I was being jealous. I was just blaming all these things on what was happening out there and not noticing that my suffering was actually coming from my jealousy. So we can have little insights like that which really help us to improve our mind, I think, to transform our mind. And again, it's not a quick fix, it's a practice that we keep working on. And it's very well worth the effort. So the 5th verse, seeking samsaric pleasures is the door to all suffering. They are uncertain and cannot be relied upon. Recognising these shortcomings, please bless me to generate the strong wish for the bliss of liberation. Sorry, I just noticed that there was another text from one of the students, so I just... so Crystal and Vince are there, but they can't make comments. That's good. I was just worried that maybe there was something wrong with the internet connection in my home. This is my home, and this is the first time that I've done streaming from here. So I'm glad that Crystal and Vince are able to see me, if not comment. So you don't have to worry about being mindful of your speech. But I do a lot. So I'll try and be mindful. Okay. Seeking samsaric pleasures is the door to all suffering. They are uncertain and cannot be relied upon. Mick Jagger said, I can't get no satisfaction. No matter how much pleasure we get from external sources, we always want more. And I think that's something that we really have to reflect upon, because maybe we don't really 100% believe it. Maybe we think that some pleasures do actually bring us long-term happiness. And I think we can just maybe meditate, maybe really consider all these pleasures that we're quite attached to. Are they going to bring long-term, genuine happiness or not? I mean, everything is impermanent, we said in that previous verse. So these conditions, these happy conditions, are not going to last forever. And happiness and suffering are a state of mind. Our happiness comes from our own mind, not from external sources. So there's nothing wrong with pleasure. We should enjoy as much as we can all the external pleasures in our life, but at the same time, we just be mindful that they're not going to last forever. And we be mindful that we're not so attached that we're exaggerating the positive qualities of those pleasures and not seeing any of the negative qualities of the pleasures. So again, it's all about being mindful, reflecting upon things, but ultimately happiness and suffering come from our own mind, not from outside. So we can generate the wish to perfect our mind. We can generate the strong wish, it says in that verse, for the bliss of liberation, of freeing our mind from all the delusions that we currently have. Lama Zopa Rinpoche said, happiness and suffering come from our own mind, not from outside. Our own mind is the cause of happiness. Our own mind is the cause of suffering. To obtain happiness and pacify suffering, you have to work within your own mind. And that's what it's all about. That's what Buddhism is really all about, working with our own mind to become happier people, to become more peaceful, to ultimately, as the end goal, to perfect our mind so that we've developed all our positive qualities to the utmost and eliminated all our negative qualities, and then we spread it out and help everyone else, every other being with a mind, including animals and insects, to also liberate their mind like that, to help them all to be free from suffering. Cherishing others is the source of all happiness, Lama Zopa Rinpoche said. It's another good one to reflect upon. So the renounced mind yearns for enlightenment and gives up attachment to all these external worldly pleasures. And sometimes we see that we may know people who are very wealthy, they have a lot of material possessions, a lot of money, and they really enjoy their wealth, they enjoy all their luxuries, but maybe they're not so attached to them that they want to keep them all for themselves. They're very good at sharing and being generous with their wealth. And if they lose their wealth, some people don't even seem to be greatly suffering at that stage. They're able to move on, and they have that sense of knowing that people are important, their family is important, a kind heart is important, and they don't value material possessions over those good qualities. So renunciation is about giving up not our possessions, not our loved ones, but giving up our attachment to them. Just giving up exaggerating that we need those things and those people to make us happy. And if we do this, we stop blaming others for our suffering. we see that it's our own mental states that make us suffer. And eventually we get to the point of being sick of suffering, so they say. And then we begin to change our behaviour to eliminate our suffering. So I'm a work in progress. I'm not there yet. I keep being sucked in by thinking that I want things out there and people out there, but I'm working on my mind. And every now and then I'll have little breakthroughs and realise that happiness is a state of mind, that I'm the master of my mind. I can be happy in any situation. That's actually true. Sometimes I actually see that, believe it, and practice it. And when we have these little sort of breakthroughs, it really inspires us to practice more and put more effort into our Dharma practice and our meditation. And so then we get more benefit as well. A teacher, Geshe Gyalten, who is a wonderful teacher, a monk, said at a teaching that I attended of his that if we have 10% attachment, we have 10% suffering. No, sorry, wrong way. If we have 10% attachment, we have... Now I've got to think about this. In my notes I said 10% attachment means 10% happiness. But that's wrong, isn't it? 10% attachment means we have 10% suffering. 50% attachment means we have 50% suffering. 0% attachment means that we have 100% happiness. And I still may have said that all wrong, but I might have been tricking you, and you just have to think about it, reflect upon it, and let me know next week maybe. So moving on to verse 7. Just as I have fallen into the sea of samsara, so have all mother migratory beings. Please bless me to see this, train in supreme bodhicitta, and bear the responsibility of freeing migratory beings. So the Buddha said we've been circling through all these rebirths since beginningless time. If we've been for beginningless time having lives, then chances are that we've all come across each other, had relationships with every other being at some stage over beginningless lives. So following on from that, we could imagine that every other being at some stage has been our mother in one of those lives. So then we can train our mind to actually see every being as being our kind mother, including animals and insects. At one stage, it's likely that they've been our mother and we've been their mother as well. So this really helps us to develop kindness and love, unconditional love for all beings. It's a tool to train to develop that sort of mind where you can have unconditional love for every being. And this is what bodhicitta is, having unconditional love for every sentient being and having the wish for every sentient being to become enlightened. And the only way we can help them all to be happy, to be free from suffering, to become enlightened, is if we become enlightened, ultimately. That's what we have to do then, to help all our kind mothers to be free from their suffering. We have to work on our own mind, perfect our own mind, develop all those positive qualities, eliminate all the negative qualities, and then we can help all our kind mothers, which is a very nice way of looking at it, I think, and it helps me all the time in so many different ways. I used to be really scared of spiders, had a bit of a phobia for spiders. And now when I see a spider, I immediately think to myself, that was my mother. Well, that is my mother. And I give that spider my mother's name, and I'm not nearly as scared. There's still maybe a little bit of, don't want to get too close to it, but I don't have phobia anymore. When you name that creature and recognise that it could be your mother, it's like it's a mind tool. You can look at it as a mind tool, and it really helps me. It helps me when I have really difficult, challenging people in my life to try to remember they were my mother. And I'm not saying it's easy, but it really helps me. Definitely helps. Sometimes quite miraculously. So ultimately the only way to truly help every being to be free from suffering, to become enlightened in themselves, is for us to become enlightened. So that helps motivate us to put in as much effort as we can to Dharma practice, to meditating, to working on our mind. We're doing it for everyone. So, what are we up to? Verse 6, led by this pure thought, mindfulness, alertness, and great caution arise. The root of the teachings is keeping the pratimoksha vows. Please bless me to accomplish this essential practice. So, in Buddhism, there are different levels of vows. There are ordination vows for monks and nuns, and then there are also 5 lay vows for people who are not ordained. The 5 lay vows are against killing, stealing, lying, sexual misconduct, and intoxication. And if we choose to formally become Buddhist, we do that at a refuge ceremony where we take those vows. Sometimes the teacher or the geshe who performs the refuge ceremony will say that you only need to take 1 or any number of those 5 vows. And that was the case when I took refuge. So I took vows not to kill, not to lie, not to steal, not to commit sexual misconduct, but I didn't take the vow to not take intoxicants. And a lot of people don't take that 5th vow. And again, I think it's just what we're used to. I would only drink alcohol once or twice a year, maybe a few times a year, but I really don't need it. But it's just because it's such a social, sort of sometimes an expectation, that I just found I wasn't ready to totally vow not to drink alcohol again. Sometimes, though, in refuge ceremonies, the geshe, the teacher, will say that you do take the 5 vows, but you only have to take them at the root level, which means that you could choose to vow not to kill another human being. That's like the root vow. Stealing, I don't know what the root vow is, but it's like different degrees of stealing, different degrees of lying, and sexual misconduct and intoxication. So there's a bit of flexibility, and it depends on who is performing the refuge ceremony as to what level or how many vows you take. So these vows are meant to help us, to relieve us of some of the suffering in our life. And it makes it easier when you're faced with sort of ethical dilemmas. You don't know what to do. If you have a vow, for example, that you're not going to lie, and a situation comes up where it's really ethically, you're unsure what you should do. If you lie, it's going to hurt someone. If you tell the truth, it's going to hurt someone. You're in a lot of turmoil in your mind trying to work out what to do. If you have a vow not to lie, then it makes it a lot easier for you, if that makes sense. So you're not wrestling with, should I tell the truth? Should I lie? Is this really a lie? Is it not? You have a vow not to lie, so that helps you to know which direction your action should take. People who don't take refuge, vows can still be extremely helpful. And you might decide that you'll make it a practice that maybe you'll vow not to kill anything today for the whole day. You know, you can make any of these practices personal, whatever resonates with you, whatever's going to help you, whatever's going to be a mind tool to help your mind to become more kind and wise. So you might decide, I'm not going to kill anything today. No mosquitoes. No, I'm going to be really careful when I walk that I don't stand on ants. If there's a spider that's really scaring me, I'm still not going to kill it. Just for today, I'm going to take this vow not to kill. And that can be really, really a great practice to do. When you are living in vows, even if they're just temporary vows, you're actually creating karma the whole time that you have that vow. So if you think about it, if you vow not to kill, every moment of the day every day that you have that vow, you are getting good karma for not killing. If you didn't have a vow to not kill, you might go a week with not killing anything maybe. But maybe that's just because there's no mosquitoes around at this time of the year. You haven't seen any mosquitoes, so you haven't killed them. Maybe you just haven't been walking where ants are, so you were lucky that you didn't kill ants. You don't get karma for, say, not killing mosquitoes if it just happened to be there were no mosquitoes around. But if you made a vow not to kill, you're actually consciously having this action, a karma. Karma just means action. You're always not killing every moment of the day because you made that vow. So you get good karma from that. And that's something very juicy, meaty to reflect upon. But we could take any of those vows for any amount of time that we want, just to use as a mind tool to make us a more positive, kind person. So the next verse, keep losing my place. I wish people could comment, because then you could tell me what verse I'm up to. Pratimaksha 6. Yes. Okay, we're up to verse 7. Just as I have fallen into the sea of samsara, so have all mother migratory beings. Please bless me to see this, train in supreme bodhicitta, and bear the responsibility of freeing migratory beings. So we mentioned that bodhicitta is having that wish to become enlightened, to help all other beings become enlightened. Have we already done that verse? Because we talked about bodhicitta, didn't we? Maybe I was reading out of order, but that's where training in bodhicitta, training to have unconditional love for everyone. We can see everyone as if they were our kind mothers at some stage, and we wish to repay their kindness. So we focus our efforts on training our mind, to perfect our mind, to helping all of them. We can only ultimately help all of them to achieve enlightenment if we've achieved it. That makes sense, doesn't it? So then verse 8, even if I develop only bodhicitta, but I don't practice 3 types of morality, I will not achieve enlightenment. With my clear recognition of this, please bless me to practice the bodhisattva vows with great energy. So this is about recognizing that we won't perfect our mind, we won't achieve enlightenment by only developing bodhicitta. We need to also practice the 3 types of morality, which are the morality of abandoning negativity, the morality of practicing virtue, and the morality of working to benefit others. The morality of abandoning negativity includes refraining from praising ourselves and criticizing others. So it's thinking of others ahead of us, not making everything about me. It's thinking about others, putting others first. And this counters our prideful and judgmental tendencies, so that we're not harming others through those actions of body, speech, and mind. The morality of practicing virtue involves practicing the 6 perfections. So this is another list. There's a lot of lists in Buddhism. The 6 perfections are generosity, morality, patience, joyous effort, concentration, and wisdom. The morality of working for others involves actions like serving the community, serving the sick, comforting people who are grieving, giving to those in need. This is all directing our efforts towards working for others, service. And the Bodhisattva vows are specific vows to help develop bodhicitta by engaging in actions that overcome those selfish tendencies. And they help us to act out of love and compassion for others, ultimately for all others. These bodhisattva vows are taken in a ritual ceremony with a qualified teacher. I was very, very fortunate to have bodhisattva vows given by His Holiness the Dalai Lama in Australia. And whilst I have not perfected unconditional love for every being, I hope that he has planted a karmic seed in my mind which will ripen, and one day I will be able to have that level of unconditional love for everyone. Bodhicitta. So verse 9, once I have pacified distractions to wrong objects by pacifying distractions to wrong objects and correctly analysing the meaning of reality, please bless me to generate quickly within my mind stream the unified path of calm abiding and special insight. So at present, our minds are always distracted by objects of the senses. Calm abiding is gaining single-pointed concentration, which we can achieve in meditation. Meditation is the tool that helps us to develop that perfect concentration. This calm abiding develops concentration where we can fully concentrate on whatever object we choose without distraction for as long as we want, basically. We need to develop mindfulness to achieve calm abiding, to gain higher realizations in spiritual practices, as well as helping us in all our daily activities. Concentration is so important. I think we realise that if we can focus, we can do the best job that we're capable of now, and we can also develop our minds if we have concentration. We're learning, we're progressing. So a regular meditation practice is really helpful. I was just looking at my phone. in case there were any questions there. So it's hard for me to concentrate because I'm looking at my notes, I'm looking at comments on my screen, I'm looking at comments on my phone, but that's okay. We just do the best that we can. And we always have compassion for ourselves. We have to have compassion for ourselves to be able to have compassion for others. So that verse 9 was talking about, bless me to generate quickly within my mind stream the unified path of calm abiding, which we just talked about, and special insight. So special insight is another term for the wisdom of emptiness, which I'm not going to talk about much because I don't have that wisdom of emptiness at this stage, but it's extremely important. It's necessary to become enlightened. There are different ways that wisdom of emptiness is taught or presented, and the way of explaining it which resonates the most for me is seeing that things don't exist independently from their own side. We are all interdependent upon causes, conditions, parts, and our labelling mentally of things or people. So this is seeing things as they actually exist, whereas at the moment we see things through our delusions that we have in our mind, because our mind is not perfect. And they say it's like seeing everything wearing pink glasses. That's how our minds are at the moment. We look at everything with these pink glasses on, everything looks pink, obviously. We think that's the way things actually exist. But when we attain the wisdom of emptiness, it's like taking those glasses off and we see things how they actually are, not because of the perceptions in our mind. So we've only got 4 minutes left, and I think you are probably picking up on my method of leaving as little time as possible for these final verses, because they're the hard ones, they're the university level ones, and I don't understand them to a great degree. So I just briefly, for the next few verses, I will just pretty much read them and hope that you will continue your studies and practice, and you will gain some insight into these higher levels of teachings. And then if you become enlightened before me, you will help me along, because you would have bodhicitta and you will relieve all of us of our suffering. So we all help each other, but whoever gets there first, help the others. So verse 10, having become a pure vessel by training in the general path, please bless me to enter the holy gateway of the fortunate ones, the supreme Vajra vehicle. So the Vajra vehicle is the Tantra practices of Buddhism, or Vajrayana is another name for it as well. If you follow the Tantric path or the Vajrayana path, it's a much quicker process to become enlightened. If you keep purely tantric vows and pledges and practice Vajrayana techniques, this can lead you to enlightenment in one lifetime. So it's like a fast track, a highway to enlightenment. It's very fast, but it's also much more advanced. So it's good to know that it's there, and hopefully we will all be able to have the good karma to get tantric teachings and be able to practice. But you need a qualified teacher to give you initiations into tantric practice and to explain the tantric practices. So verse 11, at that time, the basis of accomplishing the two attainments, I'm trying to read quickly, is keeping pure vows and samaya. As I have become firmly convinced of this, please bless me to protect these vows and pledges like my life. Then, having realised the importance of the two stages, the essence of the Vajrayana, by practising with great energy, never giving up the 4 sessions, please bless me to realise the teachings of the Holy Guru. Like that, may the Gurus who show the noble path and the spiritual friends who practice it have long lives. Please bless me to pacify completely all outer and inner hindrances. In all my lives, never separated from perfect Gurus, may I enjoy the magnificent Dharma. By completing the qualities of the stages and paths, may I quickly attain the state of Vajradhara. So Vajradhara is the Buddha of Tantra. So in all our lives, may we continually come across the Dharma and further our practice and our understanding of the Dharma, and may we become enlightened as soon as possible. So if you did want to read a bit more about Tantra, Lama Yeshe wrote one of the free Lama Yeshe Wisdom Archive books, Introduction to Tantra. I think it's one of the free ones, but that's a very good book if you wanted to look more into that. So we're out of time. Please remember that the Buddhist supermarket is very large. You don't have to buy it all. We can start with a few things, check and see if they help us. And if they don't, we just place them aside. You never know, at some future time we may pick them up and they'll help us then. And that's what the Buddhist progress on the path, I think, is all about. Just do what helps you now and be open to maybe expanding your knowledge or trying other practices which may help you in the future. So next week I will start that other introductory course, Buddhism for Beginners. But if you wish to move on to a more advanced course, at Vajrayana Institute, we have Discovering Buddhism on Monday nights at 7 p.m, live streamed on YouTube. At the moment, the topic is Mind and Its Potential, and that's taught by Alan Marsh, who is a wonderful teacher. We also have Wai Chong Kok teaching on Wednesday nights at 7 p.m, Experiencing Buddha's Teachings. It's like a series, and it's basically Lam Rim that he's basing his teachings on, I believe. I haven't actually been to those classes, but I'd love to. But Wai Chong's a great teacher as well, and that's all live streamed on YouTube as well. All the classes and meditations from Vajrayana Institute are on YouTube now. So check out that timetable, and I hope that I see you in person at the Vajrayana Institute when the world is a little bit more settled and we have some better karmic conditions for that. And let's just dedicate all our efforts from listening to the Buddha's teachings, from trying to train our mind to be more positive, more kind, more wise. We dedicate all that effort that we've put in to helping every one of those beings who were our mothers at some stage to be free from suffering, to find happiness, to become enlightened. And thank you very, very much for being with me, and I wish you well. Bye. Bye, Crystal and Liz. And Ben, if you're there.